Well, good afternoon. My name is Charlotte Glen. I am the NC State Extension Master Gardener Program Manager, and I am really excited to welcome all of you here today for our first Learn, Grow, Share Showcase webinar. And we are going to be hearing from two groups of Master Gardener volunteers, both from Durham County today, and they're going to be telling us about their projects, which were recently recognized in the International Master Gardener Search for Excellence Awards program. So I'm not gonna spoil anything by telling you anything about the projects now, because we're going to hear from each of them and lots more. But I did want to just give a little bit of background about the International Master Gardener Search for Excellence if you're not familiar with it. It is the recognition program for volunteer work within the Extension Master Gardener program throughout the entire United States, as well as Canada, South Korea, and England. So that's everywhere the Master Gardener program is active. And it's held every other year. So it's usually held, well, usually they ask for applications during even years, and the awards are announced and given during odd years, which is when the International Master Gardener Conference is held, which this year will be in Overland Park, Kansas, and it's coming up June 18th through 22nd. And I believe they have just closed registration because they have topped out at the maximum, which I think is around 1,200. So it should be amazing this year, the number of people that are there. And I know they've got all kinds of great things planned. So the International Master Gardener Search for Excellence is created to recognize outstanding group projects. So that's what they're really looking for, groups of master gardeners working together on projects that are compatible with the Extension and Extension Master Gardener mission, which of course means that learning is taking place. So that's one of the key things they look for, is that significant learning has taken place through the project, whether it's by the Master Gardener volunteers involved or the public. So we decided to feature these two projects in our first Learn, Grow, Share showcase because they're both amazing projects, and just the timing was perfect to host this new webinar series and launch it. This is a series we are hosting through the NC State Extension Master Gardener program, and it's open to all of our Master Gardener volunteers across North Carolina, as well as our extension agents and volunteer coordinators and any extension employees who are interested and want to learn more about what Master Gardener volunteers are doing across the state. And there's a lot going on because we have over 3,500 Master Gardener volunteers, over 90 extension staff in almost all of our counties across North Carolina. So it's really exciting to be able to bring everybody together. And future webinars, just like this one, will feature local projects presented by the Master Gardener volunteers, and sometimes including the extension agents that are involved. And just as the name, Learn, Grow, Share, reflects the whole purpose of this series and the Extension Master Gardener program itself, we're all about learning. So we want to learn about inspiring projects. We want to grow, whether it's growing plants or growing healthy communities or growing relationships. So for our webinars, we're trying to grow our connections between volunteers across the state. And of course, we want to share everything we learn back with our communities and with each other. So through this webinar series, we'll be sharing ideas for programs and initiatives that help us achieve the Extension Master Gardener mission, which is to connect people to the benefits of gardening. That's why we are doing what we do. We want everybody to have healthier lives, healthier plants, a healthier planet through research-based gardening practices that they learn about through our education and outreach practices. So this just shows some of the benefits of gardening. We're trying to share with people things that range from better nutrition and food security to improved health by working with plants, being outside, protecting wildlife, providing pollinator habitat, how plants help clean the air and water, which all lead to more livable cities and healthier communities. So all of our Learn, Grow, Share showcase webinars will be recorded, and they will be posted on the EMG intranet where all Master Gardener volunteers can access them. We also will be pulling together an additional resource document with each webinar. So any links that are mentioned today, the slides actually that are presented today will be available to you through that resource document after the webinar. And they'll be posted when you go to the Extension Master Gardener intranet. you will need to go to the North Carolina site. So when you log in, you're usually on your dashboard and in your county, but you'll see a link up top that says North Carolina. So when you click there, you go to the statewide site. And then down in the side menu on the left, there will be a link that says continuing education. So that's where you'll need to click to find the Learn, Grow, Share series. And of course, we'll be sending out a direct link to the page where you'll find these resources after. We will also be sending out a survey. So we wanted to get this first webinar out and going, but we want to get your input on what you would like to learn about in future webinars. And if you have something you would like to share. So we need to know both things. We need people who are willing to tell us about the amazing stuff that you're doing in your county, and we want to know what you would like to learn about. And with that, I'm going to stop my sharing for right now, because I'm going to turn it over to Sallie Cune, who is a Master Gardener volunteer in Mecklenburg County, and a really big reason we are here today and have got this webinar series launched. I was really fortunate. Sallie reached out to me, I think it was last fall. We started talking about how can we connect Master Gardener volunteers across the state and give them a way to share ideas and share with each other. So that is how the webinar series came about. And I am so fortunate to have Sallie willing to serve as the facilitator and host for our webinar today and moving ahead. All right, Sallie.
All right. Well, thank you, Charlotte. I appreciate that introduction. And so my name is Sallie Cune. I am a 2022 graduate of the Mecklenburg County Master Gardener program. So I am a newbie at this, and I just appreciate Charlotte for entertaining my idea. I just, want to know what all the different projects that EMGs can do and what they're currently doing across the state. And she, brought together this idea of this webinar in order to do that. So I appreciate her for pulling it together on her end as well. So I'm really excited about doing this. Please send your ideas via the survey. We want to hear what everyone's doing across the state, because I know there's all kinds of great projects out there. So today we have two we're going to review. The first is Cocoa Cinnamon Container Gardening Project. This has been done by Deborah Pilkington and Peter Gilmer. So if the two of you could introduce yourselves and let us know your years of service as well as your role in this project.
Hi, I'm Deborah Pilkington, and I am a 2015 graduate of the Durham County Master Gardener program. And in this project, I was the team leader.
Okay, thank
Hi.
you.
Yes, sorry. Hi, I'm Peter Gilmer. I am a 2019 graduate from the Durham County Master Gardener program, and I was part of the steering committee for this project.
Okay, thank you very much. The second project we have is going to be called Creating Connections, Education Through Social Media and Blog Outreach During the Pandemic and Beyond. And this is being discussed by Melinda Heigel, Ariyah April, and Lalitree Darnielle. And they are actually going to present first. So I will let each of you please introduce yourself. They're all from Durham County as well. If you all could let us know your years of service as well as your role in the current project.
Hi, I'm Melinda Heigel, and I am a 2017 Master Gardener graduate, actually originally from Clemson University program, and then by way of Durham, and now I've transferred to Wake County. So I was the blog chair and the blog editor in Durham County from March 2022 to March 2023.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ariyah April. I'm class of 2019 like Peter, and I was the chair of the social media committee for a year before the pandemic and then throughout the pandemic.
Hi, I'm Lalitree Darnielle. I'm also class of 2019 from Durham County. I've been on the social media team since 2020, and this year I am the chair of social media.
All right, thank you. And let's see, I guess I'll go ahead and turn it over to Melinda.
And actually, Ariyah is going to start for us.
Oh, all right. Ariyah, please.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Sallie, for the intro and Charlotte for organizing us. So welcome to our webinar called Creating Connections, Education Through Social Media and Blog Outreach During the Pandemic and Beyond, brought to you by the Durham County Master Gardeners. And as said, we're moving a little quickly through the slides, don't worry, you can have this deck afterward, including our resources. Next slide, please. Great. So in March 2020, like all the other organizations, we really had to rethink our outreach, and all of our in-person programming were put on an indefinite hold. So not only did we need to optimize online platforms for communication, we also needed to create both authentic human connection and sustainable gardening education, exactly when people really yearned for it the most. So our blog and social media teams got to work. We coordinated, and our collective efforts led to amazing results in online engagement. We're going to dive into specific numbers in the results part of this webinar, but to summarize, our strategic collaboration really strengthened our communities in both online and in-person moves by providing relevant education and resources to gardeners, all of that at no financial cost. Not only did we bridge the communication gap while not having in-person events, we found new ways to connect. So what we're describing today spotlights our work during the pandemic, but of course you can do any of these activities at any time. Next slide, please. Let's talk about our goals. So as a united communications team, our main goal was to provide timely, high quality, and science-based content for a diverse readership. It was really important for us to publish and post dependable content often. The social media team focused on posting easy to understand guidance. We upped our 1 to 2 posts every week to at least 3 posts per week on Facebook and Instagram. Plus, we shared Instagram stories about 4 to 5 days a week. The blog team's main goal was to share more in-depth info through longer articles and original content, and they posted on the blog on average about once a week. A few other goals also surfaced for us, making our county's online presence more consistent, showing the diversity and impact of our program, aiding in the recruitment of new master gardeners, and supporting partner organizations in similar efforts. Next slide, please. So who did we target with our online content? Well, we continue producing content for every level of gardener. The blog team addressed a broad range of interests to keep gardeners at every level engaged. And the social media team thought about how to connect with local gardeners and about how to expand our reach around and beyond Durham, including reaching younger and more diverse audiences because of the limitless potential of Facebook and Instagram. So we framed our content in ways that appeal to the prime audiences in each channel. For example, we capitalized on Instagram's story feature. And if you don't know what stories are, they are short and fast snippets of information. They encourage viewers to click for more, and they're more popular for us with our younger audiences than are our lengthier, more wordy posts. So sharing stories lifted our engagement numbers on Instagram. That's where the majority of our audience members skew younger, and that's about 25 to 45 years old, than on Facebook, where the majority of our users are 45 years or older. We were also mindful of sharing expertise from underrepresented gardeners. So during the pandemic, we increasingly shared content from Alexis Nicole, who's online as Black Forager, and Chris Chung, online as @FluentGarden, and other gardeners of color. And their stories, the stories we created from their videos in 2022 are some of our most viewed Instagram content. I think that helps show how diverse the world's gardening leadership really is, and it inspires a new generation of gardeners to get outside and grow. We also adapted to capture the online wave of interest in gardening during the pandemic. We increased the number of our posts about houseplants, how to get started gardening, native plants, other hot topics. And we encourage our followers to ask questions and share their experiences. So despite not being able to see these folks in person, we were able to level up their gardening practices as if we were playing in the garden right there beside them. Next slide, please. In terms of location of our outreach, you probably guessed it, our blog and social media teams worked virtually. So a benefit of working virtually, of course, is that our posts and pictures can be created outside of typical work hours. And those flexible volunteer hours are really appealing to younger volunteers in particular. And ideally that helps them become and stay Master Gardener volunteers. While our outreach was done online, the impact of our outreach stretched far beyond Durham County. So in 2022, we saw that our social media followers were mainly located in North Carolina in the US, specifically the Piedmont region where our guidance is most applicable. You'll see some stats here on the slide. Since we intentionally include posts that are not zone specific, they're more best practices for any gardener anywhere. Users in other states and countries also appreciated our posts. For the blog, WordPress metrics showed that readers from over 160 countries viewed our content, and the top 3 locations of views coming from US, Canada, and the UK. Next slide, please. What about our partnerships? So partnering was one of the keys to our outreach success during the pandemic. Internally, our social media and our blog committees streamlined our communications. For example, the blog team created an online pipeline spreadsheet, which made coordination between our teams more efficient. And Melinda will talk to that in just a moment. But also the social media team regularly posted blog content on Facebook and Instagram, and this helped the blog to realize a 42% increase in views in 2022. One thing we did was we included short URLs in our social media posts. So for example, Instagram followers could quickly visit the blog by typing in that short URL as opposed to a very long website address. We might lose them if they have to do that. We also optimize our online partnerships with trusted sources, sharing each other's posts and exponentially increasing our content reach. So here's a short list on this slide of some of our treasured accounts that we follow. And you'll see NC State and North Carolina Master Gardener programs are on the top of that list, of course. During COVID, we increasingly shared content from reputable accounts with massive followings. So for example, Smithsonian Gardens, US Botanical Garden, and other organizations our followers appreciate. And every now and then we do receive a comment or share by one of these massive gardening influencers, and that shows how we've garnered a level of respect or value across the gardening world. Next slide, please. Moving on to the methods part of our project, the social media team reaped many benefits from fine-tuning how we planned our work. So along with aligning with the blog team, we also better coordinated the work within the social media committee. At first, we tried using a Google document, a very basic Google document, to manage our increased posting during the pandemic, but this was like just far too basic. Instead, we decided to optimize the built-in functionality of the publishing calendar tool in Facebook Business Suite, which is now called Meta Business Suite. The publishing calendar tool, it's also called the planner, was much more efficient for us. For example, we can make data-driven decisions about when and where to post. If another poster already scheduled a post on a topic, for example, soil testing, I see in the planner tool, there's a soil testing post for next Tuesday. I don't want to post again about soil testing, say on Wednesday. I'm going to take that opportunity and put my post on a different week about soil testing. The tool also allows us to see which days already have posts scheduled. So again, if I see that there's already a post on Tuesday, I don't want to schedule another post unless I absolutely have to on Tuesday. I'm going to spread out our posts across the week and give us more coverage. Another benefit of using the planner tool is that by being able to see each other's posts in the calendar, those extra set of eyes might catch a typo before the post goes out. Next slide, please. If you're not familiar with what the publishing calendar or the planner tool in Meta Business Suite looks like, here's a quick screenshot. This is the first week of April in 2022. You'll see from left to right, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you'll see that first week. You'll also see that both Facebook and Instagram posts can be scheduled here. Note that you need to have admin access to your organization's social media accounts in order to see this back end, right? Random Facebook and Instagram users cannot see this view that we can see as admins. The items on this calendar that have an orange highlight around them are Instagram stories. And then the ones that have a green tint around them and blue tints are Facebook and Instagram posts. And you can see that We have the week covered. There's a story or a post happening every day. We do Facebook stories. I'm focusing more on Instagram stories, but we do stories on Facebook sometimes. The engagement is not as strong on our Facebook for stories as it is on Instagram. Instagram has the better graphics for stories. So that's kind of why we do focus a little more our stories on Instagram in particular. And for reference, there are screenshots of individual posts and stories that have done well for us in the appendix of this presentation. Next slide, please. In terms of implementation, along with the benefits I just mentioned, the publishing calendar, also known as the planner tool and Meta Business Suite, allows our social media committee to understand what audiences most find engaging of our content. For example, we learned in 2022 the post about native plants, garlic, anything about leaves, recognizable local venues like Cocoa Cinnamon or Briggs Garden, individual master gardeners in a new training class, and our plant sale garnered significantly more likes, comments, and shares than do our other posts. We were also able to recruit a new committee member from the training class, and that brought our social media team up from 2 to 3 members. By training Logan quickly and efficiently and equipping him with this calendar or this planner tool as a key communication channel between the 3 of us, we really got him plugged in pretty quickly as a poster. Logan did have a basic understanding of social media, but our training really leveled him up in terms of using social media for our mission. So having him as an extra team member meant that one of us could kind of focus more on sharing stories, and the other 2 could be the main source of content for longer, lengthier posts on Instagram and Facebook. We're at the halfway point of this presentation. Thank you for listening. I'm going to hand it off to Melinda now.
Thanks, Ariyah. Can everybody hear me? So I am Melinda Heigel. Again, I was the blog committee chair and blog editor from March of 2022 through March of 2023. So the blog isn't anything new for Durham County. It actually started in 2018. It's been through a lot of transitions, several people working on the blog. Posts were often seasonal. Publication times maybe a little less predictable. Some were short, some blog entries were quite long and in-depth. So with the influence of online publications and my own exposure in terms of reading blogs, I really wanted to, as I started to work on this, employ a more predictable structure and a real project management concept to creating content. On this slide, you'll see some of the approaches that I took to achieve those goals. I developed, as Ariyah talked about, a pipeline, which was sort of my planning tool. I don't have a sophisticated Meta Business Suite tool, so this is something that anyone could reproduce if you are looking at a blog or a newsletter. What gets measured gets done, and so this allowed me to take 52 weeks out of the year and start plugging in what original content, who was doing what, and allowed me to also share this with the social media committee so we really understood what content they had to also post and share. I also worked to create a cyclical concept with monthly themes. So about twice each month, we would have something that people were used to seeing, a monthly to-do in the garden written by the same person that gives a really nice thing for people to understand what's happening in April in your garden and what you should be doing, or May or June or July, etc. Also, we created something called a specimen spotlight, which might talk about a new cultivar or a new variety or a lesser known understory tree, a native plant. So those were things that people learned that they could look for every single month. And that really built familiarity and expectation on the part of the readers and hopefully kept people coming back. We think it did. We developed a consistent style guide so that things looked really professional, heading, citations, proper image credits, a lot more images, because let's face it, even though the blog is a lot of writing, much more writing than social media, it's a very visual medium. The last thing that we tried to incorporate, I think, and has done really well for us is serialization. So we had multiple articles on a subject by one person who might write quarterly for the blog. For example, we had someone write on orchards and learning how to become a budding orchardist. And that was his title for his serial. And again, that really allowed for us to go deeper into a topic over time. And it also gave a sense of discovery for the author and also for the reader. And it also helps fill the pipeline because I knew I could count on 4 articles for the entire year from a person. Next slide. So just quickly, this is what my homemade meta business suite looks like, right? This is my pipeline. There is a link later on in the appendix so that you can look at it more closely so we don't have to look at that. But this is kind of how you plan what you're going to do. And you can kind of see the serialization and the planning there. Next slide. So how did we implement this? How did I get this going? This is all about relationship building and trust. So I met with so many EMGVs to talk about committees, to talk about their passion projects. Who do you know who's doing something really exciting? And I think one of the real joys that came out of this was I was able to really work with people about content sharing. We have so many great content creators out there. We've got our demo gardens. People are doing amazing things with plant sales, our speakers bureaus, our Durham Garden Forum that we have in Durham County, all sorts of special projects. They just need someone to say, hey, we'd like to share this with other people. Other people want to hear what you're doing. And so it's really working with committee chairs and individual master gardeners who have special projects and just getting them to help submit and trust you that you're going to help them with their articles and making them look really great. So there's a lot of content out there. It's just harnessing and planning for that content. Just like social media, we also look for opportunities to partner with like-minded and interested community organizations with similar missions, things that our readers and other people in our community would be interested in. And one of those was Keep Durham Beautiful. An example, they have something called Creek Week every year, where volunteers come out and really help to clean up our watersheds. And so we had guest speakers, someone who was a volunteer with Creek Week, do a blog for us. So there are a lot of opportunities, again, for great content creation and definitely community collaboration. Next slide, please. All right, budget narrative. This is where the rubber meets the road, right? For every Master Gardener program. So we use WordPress as our hosting service. And so we kind of have a fixed cost of $115 for the entire year. And so that allows us a lot of options for blog posting. This is kind of that back end side that Ariyah was talking about. There are opportunities for web hosting and blog hosting that are free. Some of those out there that you might research might have some advertising to them. They might not have as many analytics tools for you to use, but it's very scalable for what you can do or what kind of opportunities you have in your organization, the money that you have in your organization. But for us, it's a very nominal cost of $115 a year, and the payoff is tremendous. So really, aside from increased volunteer commitment, there's no financial impact, and you get a tremendous amount of broad reach in your community. Next slide. Results, right? Again, here's the rubber meeting the road. We really have great real-time metrics and insights for Facebook and Instagram posts. And also, just to mention as an aside, the Durham County social media group, Ariyah especially, created a fantastic member training document that really professionalized, told us how to create collective voices on social media, how to include a call for action in your post, what's a compelling video or visual in a post, how do you credit a photographer? So again, very much like I did in the blog with a general style guide. There is always change going on, especially in the social media piece. So if you are interested in learning more about that guide, we would encourage you just to use Ariyah's email or Lalitree's email and ask them for some more guidance on that guide. It's constantly changing. In WordPress, we did weekly and daily analysis of the data based on the package that we had from WordPress. We were able to see real time, pretty much every hour, who's reading, what are they reading, when are they reading, how many visits, and what terms are they searching for if they're finding us through a search engine. So we had some really strong tools for those results. Next slide. So you guys could definitely read this. We're just going to give you a few statistics so that you can see the results that we've had. So for Facebook, an increase of 26% of users reached by content since 2021. So that's 1,423 new followers. The reach in 1 year is 19,353 on Facebook. For those of you who aren't familiar with the concept of reach, it's the number of people who saw any of your posts at least once. So keep that in mind because we'll keep using the term reach. Also with Facebook on our Durham Master Gardeners page, there were 4,648 users who saw that content than the year prior. And if we look at the Instagram side of the house, there was an increase in followers by 1,051, 365 new followers, a 35% increase. And the reach really did soar to 5,904. So that's 2,443 people more in 1 year. Next slide. The blog had a tremendous increase in views. As you can see there, in 2022, we had 105,590 views. And we had as unique visitors to our site last year, 81,693 unique visitors. So our visitors were coming back to the site about 1.3 times. And you can also see that we achieved this with fewer posts in 2022. So we were posting less articles, about one a week, but we had more impactful posts because our numbers went up significantly. And they did go up pretty significantly. You can see year over year, 41% increase in views from the prior year and 42% increase in unique visitors. Next slide. Okay, so we have all these great numbers, right? And they sound fantastic. But what is the real extent of what we're doing here? We wanted a tool to evaluate the true learning and significant impact that our outreach was having. Were we really educating people? So we surveyed 108 total master gardeners active on our listserv in Durham County, and we received about a 24% response rate. That's pretty good for a response rate, definitely statistically significant. And we really kind of looked at 7 broad categories. It includes things like monthly gardening maintenance, planting natives, planting vegetables, choosing plant varieties, container gardening, integrated pest management, those sorts of things. Next slide. So take a look here at what some of our evaluation results were. For those who were asked specifically about social media, 46% reported posts raised knowledge of their garden tasks and plant selections. 50% said social media helped them learn more about growing vegetables. You can see that the blog also had some really good numbers there, 70+% increasing knowledge of growing proper ways to grow things and native plants, especially. Next slide. And then you can see some more evaluation results here. I'm going to kind of just blow through these quickly because I know that you can see those and you'll have access to all this. So we definitely had some very solid results. I think that we were able to show that people changed their gardening practices and increased knowledge by our outreach. And these are people who are master gardeners who are following us. I know that there will be plans in the future to extend that kind of survey and broaden the reach out in the community to see how we're really affecting folks in the broader communities who are reading our social media. So please follow us. Go ahead and next slide, please. Please follow us, share, comment in our content. We'll follow you back if you have sites. I think that will help us grow both our communities together. This is where you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and online for our blog where you can subscribe. Don't worry about taking a screenshot or anything here, because you'll have, again, this deck for reference. And of course, everything that we've talked about, you can see all of our examples if you go on these different sites. So let's stay connected. And as Ariyah mentioned, we have an appendix at the end of this slideshow showing you all sorts of things, the pipeline, metrics. I think that Charlotte's going to just quickly give you a taste of what those are. Opportunities to see things we've posted. And here you're seeing Facebook and Instagram stories and posts. So you can dive deeper into these things afterward. Here you can link to the pipeline and see it. These are some of our blog posts. It just goes on. And here's some analytic examples. And here's our survey. If you decide, even for a newsletter that you're writing, I'd like to do a survey to say who's learning what. Here's our survey. So thank you. Thank you so much for the Learn, Grow, Share Showcase. Thanks to the Search for Excellence Awards program, everybody who made these learning experiences possible, especially to Charlotte and to Sallie and Ashley, our fearless leader in Durham, who encouraged us to apply for the innovation category for the International Master Gardeners Conference. If you have any questions after this session, send us an email. We will be so happy to help you personally, or also this deck will be available to you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, ladies. Great information there. We have a few moments here to do a quick question and answer. I noticed that the chat has been going crazy. We've had all kinds of questions there, and it looks like Ariyah and Lalitree have been able to answer some of those. Are there any other questions? Charlotte, or do you know that we haven't answered yet?
There was a great question about how you promoted your blog. And I think one of the big things is you promoted the blog through social media. But are there other ways you promote the blog specifically, especially to get that whole ball rolling?
You know, at this point, really, no. And that's what's so amazing about this is I think our relationship and our cohesiveness with social media definitely help. But this is sort of table stakes, just getting some organization, attention, and project management around it. The next step, if I had remained in Durham, sorry, Ashley, I would have really started to work very closely with search engine optimization, because a lot of our traffic came from websites, from just search engines. And if I had done a better job on my second year of really employing keywords, I can only imagine what we could have accomplished, because people are out there searching for things all the time. So that would have been sort of the next step, and who knows where they'll go from here.
There was another question about generating QR codes. And I did mention in the chat that NC State has a QR code generator. It also generates short links. It's called Go Links, but you have to be an employee to access it. You have to log in with your employee ID. Has anybody out there found something to create those QR codes, something free and anybody can access?
There are some number of free QR code generators, and sometimes they'll even allow you to add kind of a central logo or something like that, so you can use the watering can or something else cute. But oftentimes I find that, you get 5. And so I tend to burn through them pretty quickly.
They limit the number you can have for free, you mean?
Yeah,
Like
you're just kind of burning through
one.
accounts, right? Which it works, but it's not for the faint of heart, maybe.
And I saw there was some discussion about your newsletter, but I think you clarified, Ashley, that you have a newsletter, but that's an internal newsletter for your Master Gardener volunteers. So the blog and the social media outreach is really focused on educating the public, right? Okay. And again, Ariyah and Lalitree did a great job responding in the chat to the questions, and there's a lot of compliments and people saying how much they appreciate it. I think I've caught most of the questions that haven't been addressed in the chat.
All right, then. Thank you, Charlotte. With this, we'll move into our second presentation. Next up, we have Cocoa Cinnamon Container Gardening Project with Deborah and Peter. You guys are up.
Thank you very much. I am just hitting the share screen button. And there we go. And I will be there in just a second. And there we go. All right. Great. Everyone can see me and is there? Excellent. Okay, good. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Cocoa Cinnamon Project, a container demonstration garden. So Cocoa Cinnamon is a bricks and mortar coffee shop that is just kitty corner from the cooperative extension office. So you can just walk there after a work day or a meeting. And it is located in an area of Durham called Old North Durham. This is one of the oldest residential neighborhoods within the city limits of Durham. It's also home to the historic Durham Athletic Park. If you ever saw the movie Bull Durham, you'll recognize the bull here, hit bull win stake. And it's also home to the Durham Central Park and Durham Farmers Market, which means that there's a lot of foot traffic and car and truck traffic in this area. It is also an area that is exploding with growth. All of these dots are new condominiums, apartment buildings, businesses, restaurants that are coming up in Durham. And this was from 2022. You cannot walk out the front door of the extension office and not see a construction crane somewhere in view. So what this is telling us is that with Cocoa Cinnamon office right here, the extension office right there, is that we are going to have a huge group of new urban city dwellers whose only opportunity to garden is going to be in containers on their balconies. This is the Cocoa Cinnamon coffee shop. This is a bird's eye view. And what you see is that this is the coffee shop itself here where the yummy stuff happens. And outside is the seating area. It is surrounded on two sides by heavy metal containers of differing kinds of metal, of different sizes, of different shapes, and of different depths. And on the third side is a railing. This is what the containers look like. You can see the different sizes there. You can see the different shapes, the different depths. These containers were all repurposed from buildings throughout the city of Durham. So some of them actually have some historic importance and were repurposed from things like conveyor belts and grain sorting kinds of operations. This is the outside seating area, a little sewer there, and then the spigot on the side of the building. In 2021, in the spring of 2021, about a year into the pandemic, and the first vaccines have become available, and finally Master Gardeners were able to gather together outdoors for projects. And so one of the days after a demonstration garden project, a few of us walked over to Cocoa Cinnamon and beheld these containers and saw that these containers were looking like the way the rest of us was feeling, which was like pretty bereft and exhausted. And I talked to the owners to find out what had happened. And they said they had been so busy trying to keep their business open, their employees employed and safe throughout the pandemic that they didn't have time to take care of these containers. And so I wrote a little Post-it note with my name and phone number and said, can we help you with this? This is a project we'd love to take on. I heard back from them a few weeks later. We met in person with them and decided to form a partnership between the Master Gardener Program and Cocoa Cinnamon to renew the container plantings at this location. Our goal was to create a green oasis so that when guests are there, they don't feel like they're sitting on a really hot, hard concrete corner. They've got a little bit of separation from the city around them. And also making a space for master gardeners to teach about container gardening in difficult urban environments. And they were very happy to have us come in and do this. And it's just been a really wonderful project. So the goals for the master gardeners were to design and implement a plan for these containers, to research, to brainstorm, and to creatively problem solve. How are we going to work with these containers? How are we going to irrigate these containers? What are we going to put in there that's going to be able to manage to survive in this kind of location? We wanted to experiment and gather data. So we used soil thermometers and we used moisture meters. We wanted to engage the community because we all needed a feeling of getting back together again after such a tough time being isolated, and we wanted to educate. For Cocoa Cinnamon, we wanted to create that enveloping garden in containers. We wanted to provide a screening from traffic and from noise and from construction. We wanted it, they needed it actually to be low maintenance for them. And we were hoping that we might be able to ameliorate a documented urban heat island. So that was what we were after. We went to our advisory committee for our 501c3 and we asked them for money to start working on this project and told them why we thought it was so important, how it was going to benefit Cocoa Cinnamon, but more importantly, how it was going to benefit the Master Gardener program. And they gave us the funding, which we'll talk about later, and the Cocoa Cinnamon team was assembled and we were on our way. I'm going to turn it over now to Peter, who's going to walk us through the whole process.
Thank you, Deborah. I just lost my internet connection, but it's back, so hopefully it stays stable. Good afternoon, everyone. We'll stay on this slide for a few minutes because in describing the methods, I wanted to begin by outlining how we were organized. We had a 6-member steering committee that was responsible for our brainstorming sessions. We're the ones that met with the owner. We took tours of their existing coffee shops and got to know much better what it is they saw in the project. And the steering committee was ultimately responsible for plant selection and for plant purchasing. We had a wonderful dynamic leader in Deborah that you just heard from. And her job, among many other things, was to get our meeting schedules set and to initiate most of our email chains. We had terrific support from a much larger group of volunteers. This is not about 6 people doing this project. We had assigned work days. We chose to work 2 to 3 hour sessions, generally once a day, but on a few occasions, a morning and an afternoon session on the same day. There was a lot of enthusiasm for this project amongst our volunteers, and I think that's a major reason why this project moved along. It seemed that we liked to work with each other. We all enjoyed working in the dirt, and you put those two things together and some pretty cool things happened. I want to talk a little bit about tactics. Each workday had to be realistic and specific so that the amount of work was doable in the time allowed, including time for cleanup without leaving a lot of loose ends. We tried to plan our schedule such that there was low impact on the business. We did not work on weekends, which is the busiest time for the coffee shop. We made a point to park off-site. The incoming and outgoing soil was managed to reduce the amount of time the soil stayed on the parking lot. Time and equipment for cleanup were important for each workday. From an ergonomic standpoint, we did not use earth-moving equipment, front-end loaders, tractors, so forth. We did use wheelbarrows, but our primary tool was a 5-gallon plastic bucket. That made the handling of the soil very doable, even lifting the soil up into the back of the truck. So we'll go through these bullet points now. Sun exposure, we can dismiss almost immediately because we had full sun exposure all day long. We'll start with drainage. Next slide. Yep. So we did not know the origin or history of the existing soil in these containers, so we elected to remove all of that media. There were some existing fairly large plants that we removed, root pruned, repotted, and moved to other sites. The existing soil was disposed off-site. The drainage of each container could then be assessed. These containers are too big to lift. It's even difficult to get out on your hands and knees and look underneath them. So once we had the soil out, we could assess the drainage. We had to add some drill holes that's shown in that central picture. And then we ran into the fact that the metals used in these containers were not all the same. And some of them were extremely hard. This container on the right is, I believe, a stainless steel or similar material, and we could not drill into it or through it. But we learned that an angle grinder, which is a common tool with the right blade, could cut a slit in it. And so we cut slits to accomplish our drainage. The planting, the next slide, the planting media was brought in bulk, dumped prior to the start of the workday. We used a tent canopy over the pile to provide some shade. The media that we selected was 50% topsoil and 50% compost. This is a material that we had used in creating some planting beds at a demo garden, and we liked the idea of having organic material in the media as opposed to using commercially available bagged potting soil. We did add perlite to this 50-50 mix in a ratio of 4:1 to improve our drainage. Next slide. We selected and planted large foundation plants such as the evergreens and grasses in the first winter. We also added some winter vegetables and used dried stems of prairie dock for seasonal interest. Through that first winter, we researched the effects of urban heat islands, heat zones, and hardiness zones as related to gardening in containers, from which we developed a plant list. That plant list is in the resource document at the end of this talk, so don't be anxious about not seeing the plant list. We wanted, next slide, please. We did want to connect with the customers of the coffee shop. So when someone would enter the coffee shop, they would be offered a pencil and a slip of paper on which to write a thought, a dream, a hope, an idea, a wish, or a prayer, and drop it into a small lockbox. The sign on the box told them that when we planted the containers in the coming spring, we would also plant their slips of paper so that they might take root, grow, thrive, and bring joy along with the plants and our community. In the winter of 2021, our team started seeds for some of the chosen plants. In the spring, we purchased additional plants, annuals, perennials, herbs, vines, and grasses from our own Master Gardener plant sale and from the area garden centers. We also sowed directly into some containers. Wishing to honor the Mexican heritage of one of the co-owners of Cocoa Cinnamon, we chose some plants that would be culturally familiar, such as Mexican marigold, prairie coneflower, Mexican feathergrass, and Mexican sunflower. Work days to install both the plants and the slips of paper occurred in the spring of 2022. Next slide, please. The last piece of this initial installation was the development of our irrigation system. This needed to be automated so as to be low maintenance. A key decision for us was to protect our irrigation system by hiding it inside a larger pipe. As you probably know, most irrigation tubing is 1/2 inch plastic. It comes in a large roll and has a tendency to recoil easily and not lay flat. By using 3/4 inch electrical conduit, we could keep the sections of irrigation tubing straight and protected from foot traffic. We designed dual lines, one for less frequent but longer lasting irrigation, and the other for more frequent but shorter lasting irrigation, which would allow us to discriminate between deeper rooted plants that would require slower and deeper irrigation versus more superficial rooted plants that would dry out more quickly and require frequent irrigation. We had irrigation tubing that crossed a walkway, and we came up with a way of protecting that in a 2-channel hose protector curb ramp. We also found ways to attach the conduit to the concrete surface as well as to some of the containers using concrete or masonry screws and self-tapping metal screws. In the summer of 2022, over a year into this project, Coco Cinnamon asked that we find a way to provide a plant barrier along the railing on the third and eastern side of the outdoor seating area. We discussed a number of possibilities and decided to use bamboo grown in newly constructed containers. We researched container design with the expectation that the bamboo would need to be removed for periodic division. We learned about using HDPE barrier to prevent the roots from attaching to the container. We sought expert advice regarding the specific type of bamboo that would do best in our setting. The 3 wood containers were hand constructed by a volunteer community member and were lined with the barrier, installed, and leveled. The trapezoidal shape of the container will allow us to turn the container on its side and push the bulk of the rhizomatous root mat out so that it could be divided and replanted periodically. We tapped into the existing irrigation system for these containers and used a moisture meter to assure that adequate moisture was being delivered. I think there may be one more slide. And I'll just mention these bricks on top of the containers were done at the last minute because of Hurricane Ian. So there always are challenges. So that concludes the methods section. And now we're going to look at some really outstanding results. And Deborah's going to take that. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. We're very excited that we had amazingly lush growth in all of these containers, and that our dwarf Miss Figgy fruited in her very first growing season. The sweet potato vine, the Ipomawea batatas, threatened to take over the entire seating area and had to have a haircut about once a week. We did lose some plants to the advective freeze, if you remember back to just before the holidays of this year, and we lost some plants to wind. But overall, we were very pleased with how things looked. One of the owners called the plantings magical. The color combinations, the combinations of textures and shapes just were wonderful and beyond our expectations. We did encounter some pests, including Japanese beetles, which we had to remove by hand, and cabbage loopers that showed up the year before when we had a very warm spell in December. And so it was right before the holidays, so the cabbage loopers got a naughty Santa hat. We also found that pedestrians were a bit of a pest because they tended to leave things into the containers that had to be removed. One of our master gardeners, Mary Kaniram, who is also one of our great team members, is a professional photographer and a botanical artist as well. Mary noticed pollinators on the plants and started to photograph them and identify the pollinators that were coming to this urban container garden, and had some wonderful results with this. And we actually ended up with a blog post about a wildlife ecosystem in an urban container garden. In terms of outreach and education, we had posts on blog, on Facebook, and on Instagram, thanks to our great social media team. We have our own page on the Durham County EMG intranet with our plant list, with the pollinator photographs. We received a $500 Inspire, Connect, and Empower grant from the Master Gardener Association of North Carolina for container gardening classes. We had 2 of those in April that were full. We have 2 more coming up. Oh, excuse me, that was March. We have 2 more coming up in April that we're looking forward to as part of the Bull City Gardener classes. In terms of blog and social media reach, you're familiar now with what that means. Our total reach in 2022 was 3,132 people. The targeted evaluation of users of the blog and social media showed that 58% of people reported an increased understanding of container gardening, and 35% changed a practice in the way that they container garden. Significant learning for volunteers. We learned a lot about soil temperatures. On the hottest of summer days in those metal containers, the temperature was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And in the winter, the soil would be frozen and unable to put the thermometer into the soil. We observed both moisture and changes in the growth in the bamboo because we used differing potting medium in the middle container than we did on the left and the right side of container. And what we found out is the middle container seemed to hold on to the moisture better, as you can see by this moisture meter. And also we noticed the spring growth is much deeper green in color. So we will be amending the other two soils to try and help keep up with that. We learned a lot about water movement through containers. Peter talked to you already about the barriers and about the irrigation system and what we had to learn to make that all work. Some of the team members had some great things to say about what it was like working on this team, that there was a lot of enthusiasm, that we were able to educate people who were even customers saying, what are you doing and what is that plant? And also one of the team members says, this was an opportunity to learn as a master gardener. It was an opportunity to facilitate connection, not only between us and the owners and us and the customers and us and the public, but between each other. Third, it was a chance to contribute and to really see how your piece of the contribution made a big change in the whole process. And it was a chance to share by educating patrons of the business and through our container gardening classes about best practices for container gardening. In our budget, we received $2,500 from our Durham County EMGB program advisory committee, gave us $1,000. We had over $1,100 directed through donations. People would see the project and say, how can I contribute? How can I help? And we would hand them the address and say, you can send your money right here. The bamboo project was completely funded by our partner, Cocoa Cinnamon, for about $1,700, which paid for the containers, the liner, the plants, the media, everything. We have 185 in reserve there, which is good because we have to seal these containers this year. And we're even thinking about the possibility of staining the wood with coffee, which we think would be a really fun thing to do. We definitely improve people's lives. And we saw this is such an important extension goal. We saw this through feedback about, it brought us the wonders of nature to this hard concrete corner. It created hope and blossoming at such a difficult time in everyone's lives, and it helped our community blossom. And in December of 22, we were tickled to find these hand-painted stones left in the containers and found out they were painted by the kindergarten class of the neighboring Central Park School for Children and left in the containers with the message, be kind, take, and share. And we feel like we had a little bit to do with that. For Cocoa Cinnamon, their guiding mantra for 2023 is breathe, reset, and bloom. And they told us the bloom part was seeded by our work, by our volunteers, who through their kindness, their openness, their skill, their creativity, and their dedication to teaching the cultivation of plants serve almost as a metaphor for honoring people, stories, and connectivity, all of which are so very important to them and to their business. So I just want to give a quick shout out to my team, to all of the volunteers that helped us on this, to Ashley, our amazing agent who was with us every step of the way through this project. And I want to say thank you very much for listening in and enjoying this sketch by, again, Mary Kinnear. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deborah and Peter. Very nice presentation. Great information there. Another fantastic project. Do we have any questions via chat at this time, Charlotte?
No questions, just compliments on what an amazing project it is.
All right, great. At this time, anybody care to ask some questions? You can unmute your line
I have a question. This is Regina. I work with Charlotte and Caroline at the state program. This is absolutely wonderful. And the Cocoa Cinnamon Project and all of your social media work, it's just amazing. Everything is great. My one question is, with the Cocoa Cinnamon Project, will you do it again this year?
And the answer is yes, we're going to continue to maintain that. And actually, we have already moved it forward a little more. We have done a camellia espalier in containers against the back area of the seating, where there is a little bit of a wire fence there that prevents foot traffic coming through into the seating area that isn't coming from the customers themselves. So we created a camellia espalier garden there, and that's a chance for us to teach people about camellia espalier. And another project that we're looking forward to doing is taking one of the containers outside of the seating area and turning it into a container crevice garden.
Oh,
So
that's wonderful.
we just still have all kinds of things that we want to pursue.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing it all. And it's just wonderful. We shared a post of yours about the classes and about the garden, and it's gotten a lot of attention on our Facebook page. So thank you so much to the social media and everyone.
Yes,
I have a question. Do you have other retailers saying, hey, come make us beautiful?
absolutely. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, let me take a stab at that. We talked about this a lot. We did not want to become the low-cost landscape fixer-upper for the city of Durham. I mean, we knew that other businesses would be interested and potentially ask us to do that. And so we have chosen to focus only on Cocoa Cinnamon. And there was a question earlier about maintenance. This is also something we talked about a lot. Those of us who have worked on this project want to maintain it. It's been that kind of project. We would hate to see it, not cared for. And the reason that's one thing that makes it easier for us to do that is it's right across the street from our demonstration garden. So in our mind, it's the same. It's like taking care of our own. And that, of course, would not apply to a business halfway across town or something. So the unique location of Cocoa Cinema, the fact that we use it for classes, the fact that it's a different type of garden from the demo garden, all make it sort of work as one unit for us. So that would be my way of answering that. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hey, not to take your moment, but I will say that I have, we've received even those requests already, and that is very much how we frame it. And we frame it as we would love to do that, but we've committed to this as an educational space. And we can't commit to that broadly. And people seem very, once you frame it that way, they're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Good. Good.
But if anyone had an interest in starting up a business, there's a big need for something like that in your urban areas. They're everywhere, and that would be a great little business to have.
Absolutely. All right, last chance for questions, and then we'll tie it up. Any questions? Nope. All right. Well, I want to thank all the presenters today. Just fantastic information, a great place to start. I appreciate everyone participating in the inaugural teleconference here, sharing best practices for our showcase. For those of you, including myself, who are not as tech savvy as a lot of these presenters are, please don't let that intimidate you about doing a project and bringing it up. We can help with PowerPoint, we can help with Zoom, whatever it may be. Don't let that be a deterrent to sharing. I know there's a lot of great stuff out there and everybody wants to hear about it. Also, we are going to have a survey that's going to go out, as Charlotte had mentioned up front. We really need you to fill that out. We want to see what interest there is out there. We also want to see what other projects you all may have that you'd be willing to share. And so if you could please just fill out the survey and get it back in, that would help Charlotte and I in moving forward with this. And I'll turn it back over to you, Charlotte.
All right, thank you, Sallie. I just, of course, want to echo the accolades to our presenters today, these amazing projects you're doing. And you finished spot on time. This is amazing. You guys are excellent. So, great job. And just really appreciate you being willing to come and tell everybody, share these amazing projects, the work you're doing with other volunteers across the state. I have dropped the link in the chat for the survey. So if you wanted to go ahead and open that and take it now, you're welcome to. I also put a link to the page where the recording will be posted. It might take a day to get it posted, but we can go ahead and get the resource document posted there. So that's where you'll find all future recordings for this series as well. So you might want to bookmark it. I think that's everything I wanted to share, but we really do look forward to hearing from everybody across the state about the type of things you would like to learn about, as well as anything you'd like to share. So we look forward to doing this again. We don't have a set pattern set. In fact, that's one of the questions in the survey is how often you'd like to have these. And just a huge appreciation to Sallie for her help with this and getting this up and off the ground and moving. So thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
All right. Well, you guys have a fantastic rest of the day, and we'll see you next webinar, hopefully.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thanks, y'all. Take
Awesome.
care.
You too.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.